Hi, my name is John Samuel, and I'm the host of All Access with John Samuel, the show where we share the stories of entrepreneurs, leaders, advocates, and people who are just improving the lives for people of all abilities. Today, we have a special guest with Erica Crane, who's on the culture and diversity team at Lowe's, and somebody who I got to meet a year ago during National Disability Employment Awareness Month when I was speaking at Lowe's. And I'm so excited to have her here and have her share her story. So thank you, Erica, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me to be here.
Thank you again. Last year you and I met during National Disability Employment Awareness Month event that Lowe's was hosting in Mooresville, North Carolina, and I got to hear your story. And now we are celebrating it again this year in 2020. It's a little bit different feeling rather than being in person with each other. But I'd love to to learn a little bit more about yourself and what you do at Lowe's.
There's so much that I could unpack with that question. And so what I would like to begin with is, most people probably wouldn't know this, but I am deaf. I lost my hearing when I was 21 months old. However, my parents, when I lost my hearing, they didn't know until I was like in preschool, kindergarten. So I ended up getting stuck with vitamin data when I was 21 months old. And I ended up having a fever of 107 for about 16 days. So I was hospitalized. They found out when I was in about preschool, kindergarten time frame. The teachers noticed that I wasn't responding and answering questions when they called my name, or just wasn't responding. So they recommended that my parents get my hearing tested, and they did, and they found out I was profoundly deaf. That's what my papers say. But back then in the 80s, if you remember that time frame, there was a whole lot of spotlight on disabilities and just deaf and hard of hearing. So my parents did what they could for me, and they took me to an audiologist. Audiologist, of course, at the time, they never said anything about sign language, never mentioned it to my parents. It was not a thing. So they put hearing aids on me. They tested me to see if I could be have a cochlear implant. They decided not to do that because if they did, I would have lost any hearing that I would have had, a little bit of hearing that I had, and they didn't want to, because they said that it might not work. So they put me in speech therapy. I did speech therapy from like kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. I hated it, to be honest.
Really?
But I'm glad that they did that, because I feel like I've learned how to speak better. It's hard. Most deaf and hard of hearing people decide not to use their voice. But with my experience and how I grew up, I mean, they mainstreamed me in public schools. They, put hearing aids on me. So I was in a hearing world.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm used to.
But I had a quick question on that. I mean, why do you think it was that you didn't like about it? Like, what was it? Was it difficult? Was it, what were the challenges that you were facing there?
So if you think about it, just to put yourself in my shoes, I was just growing up. I'll take a step back. Elementary school was pretty good. I had wonderful friends. So when my dad ended up moving to North Carolina, I was in 6th grade. I was going into 6th grade. And if you think about the middle school years and the high school years, that's a difficult time, especially to change schools. So here I am, a teenager. I'm in a new school. We moved to North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and it's a very small town. I started 6th grade, and I decided I'm not going to do speech therapy. I'm starting a new school. I'm not going to do it. I don't want anybody to know that I'm deaf. I had not accepted that. I hated it. I used to blame God that I was deaf, and I just didn't understand it. I didn't know anybody else that was deaf or hard of hearing, and so I felt there was something wrong with me, And I never had a friend to be able to share the same experiences that I've gone through. So I never felt like I belonged. And it was very hard. It was very hard in my teenage years. And it was very traumatic, if you think about it. And the reason why I wanted I didn't want anybody to know is because I ended up going through a lot of bullying. Um, One of the teachers in middle school actually outed me in music class,
Really?
and told people that I was deaf. And of course, that's hard for my parents too, you know. Just, I mean, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But from then on, I mean, people were just mean. They bullied me. They made fun of me. I did what I could. I sat in front of class. I really wanted to do well in school, and I made all the A's and B's, and
That's awesome.
I did what I could to read left, because that's all I knew. I taught myself at a young age
Yeah.
how to read left. That's how I had to survive, was by lip reading. And when I was in high school, they finally got me some like note takers, for instance, so that I can have somebody take notes for me, so I can pay
Yeah.
attention to the teacher. And beyond that, I kept with the FM system, and then they brought this lady on. She was deaf herself, and her name was Daphne, and she actually introduced me to sign language. So I started with a book, ASL book, and just to teach me signs, and I loved it. I got to the point where to learn signs, learning songs. So I went to church, and I was teaching myself the song in sign language. So my church, of course, loved when I was able to perform with the youth choir, and I would sign the song while they were singing. And so I just fell in love with sign language, and I wish, my parents knew about it back
Yeah.
then. Maybe my life would have been easier. Maybe I could have been immersed in some of the deaf culture and met some of the kids and not felt like I had to hide it, you know?
Yeah. I
So,
mean, hearing your story of belonging, I couldn't imagine it as a child. My experience was later in life, where I had, you know, it was later when I passed college and into my career, when I at least had some, I had a good group of friends and support, from a support network that I gained during those instrumental years of middle school and high school, which, where your experience is completely different, where you didn't have that network, and I can't imagine what you had to go through.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a person like me could have gone a very different path. I mean, I could have been depressed. I mean, it is
yeah,
traumatic. I do have triggers. There are times when I've been in my chair at work and I'll just start crying,
yeah,
and because something upsets me, and it's because I had a traumatic experience as a child and growing up, and I didn't have the support. But sometimes that those tears are also a piece of happiness tears too, because I do have a lot of support now. Um,
yeah,
so when that person that came into my life and introduced me to sign language, she also opened my eyes to meeting some other deaf people. So when I was in high school, when you start looking around for colleges, she introduced me to Lenore University here in North Carolina in Hickory.
oh
When I
yeah,
went to college um, there was a deaf and hard of hearing services, and quite a few that they
awesome,
recruited for the school of deaf and hard of hearing. And so if you can imagine me, all my life not knowing anybody that's deaf, and then coming to the deaf open house, and just it was like culture shock almost. I was so happy. I mean, I didn't want to even look
awesome.
at any other school. I did not care about any other school. I wanted to go there. And I met some great people. And
I love it.
I love college. I myself into the deaf and hard of hearing culture. I learned as much sign language as I could. I took ASL classes there. I The best way to learn is to turn your voice off and be with other deaf people, and you have to watch them sing. And so they used to pick on me because I'm not a part of either world. I'm not part of the deaf world. I'm not part of the hearing world. I'm this middle person, and so I still feel that way, that I don't belong in either world, because I'm not 100% fluent in sign. And I do what I can. It's one of the reasons why I don't use an ESL interpreter. It's because my whole life was
Yeah,
hearing, basically, but living in a hearing world as a deaf person. So I use sign language interpreters throughout college, and that kind of helped me learn as well. Is having a sign language interpreter in class, so I can, at least if the teacher turns their back and is writing on the board and I can't lip read, I can look up the sign language interpreter.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
No, I love it. I love it that you found this school where you felt like you belonged. Because I think that's just when I think about diversity and inclusion and what we're trying to do. I mean, we want people to feel like they belong, and you found that
Yeah.
at Lenore, and I can and your authentic self came out, and your true self and your happy self came out. That's the Erica that's going to succeed, and that's so awesome to hear.
And it definitely helped me accept who I am more. When I was in college, I started to accept. I was like, okay, I can do this, and I can learn. I'm still figuring out every day, trying to figure out how to make my job easier. And so,
Yeah,
actually, this whole coronavirus thing has been a blessing in disguise because I never felt
really.
like in person I fit because you have big groups and you have people talking like in meeting rooms and stuff. With being able to work here, work at home and have Microsoft Teams and captions and I can lip read the people. I mean, it's actually made my job easier in some ways. So, um,
That's really interesting. I mean, so kind of taking into what you're doing today. I mean, you're talking about the COVID being a silver lining, but I mean, what are the types of challenges that you faced in your work, and how did you overcome them as you got
yeah,
into your career?
and I figured I'd give you a little bit of, tell you about what I do too.
Yeah,
If
that'd be
that's
great.
okay.
Yeah.
I think that was the second part of your first
Yeah. Oh,
question.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I've been with Lowe's for 14 years. I started as an intern my last year in college, and they actually hired me full time. I spent 13 years in store operations communications team. So I did a lot of mass communication to all of our store and field associates. I handled a lot of the web posting for content and resources, did a lot of surveys, being able to survey the field and associates. Yeah, that's the majority of store ops. I'm just kind of summarizing it here. But then about a couple of years ago, I tried to decide, okay, been with the same team for almost 14 years. So I wanted to see what's next in my life. And so I started doing some research and seeing what other departments are in Lowe's. Trying to figure out where I'm a good fit, and there was an open on the culture, diversity, inclusion team. And I never even thought of it changing careers. It's just I've always had this passion since I've kind of like accepted myself and wanting to help others with disabilities because of everything I went through. I don't want other people to feel like they're excluded, and I want them to be able to find the tools and resources they need to do their job. So I applied for it and I got it, and it's actually been a great experience. It's definitely something new. I'm learning something new. I'm not going to be the subject matter expert anytime soon in culture, diversity, inclusion, but it's given me an opportunity to learn more and help others. So what I'm mainly responsible for are external benchmarking surveys. So if you think about the Disability and Disability Equality Index and Human Rights Campaign, Corporate Equality Index, the Great Places to Work, those types of
Yeah.
benchmarking. Um, those are, so I manage the process. I work with business partners and stakeholders to gather answers for the survey questions and then submit it on behalf of Lowe's. I'm also responsible for all the communication around the awards and accolades as well. And another part of my role is handling all the ad hoc surveys internally with Lowe's. So similar to what I was doing in my previous role, doing surveys for store and field, I'm basically the main person doing it for enterprise-wide surveys or corporate supply chain surveys. So, and then recently, I have been asked to be the point of contact for disabilities on my team.
Oh,
So I'm
fantastic.
super excited about that, and it's definitely a space I can grow in.
Yeah.
So I'm not part of the accommodation team by any means, so they have their own team.
Yeah.
But if somebody reaches out to our team and needs more resources or information or best practices, I can help guide them
You are
with
the
supplies.
person to
So,
contact. That's
and
awesome.
I've been building a lot of new content. So I have several new like infographics about how coronavirus is impacting diverse segments or communities, how have some inequality infographics for different, like people of color, disabilities,
Yeah.
LGBTQ. So I've been building a lot of infographics and also trying to gather some information from like disability and around how what information we can post to for our associates, like what's a reasonable accommodation, what some do's and don'ts for best practices and terminologies for
Yeah.
disabilities. So there's a lot of resources I'm trying to build too, and I love it. I do. And so it's very fun, and I'm enjoying it, especially when it taps into the deaf and hard of hearing. So I've
Yeah.
got deaf statistics infographic even. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you asked me about how I overcome some of that. So
Yeah.
one of the things like I was saying, I am still trying to learn what's out there for me. And Microsoft Teams, when coronavirus started, that became key because before what I was doing before this was anytime we had a conference call and we were in the meeting room at work, I would have to ask one of my coworkers to join me in the meeting, even
Yeah.
if I'm leading it or if I'm not leading it, to have somebody make sure that they were there with me so that they could ping me, what was Skype at the time, before Microsoft Teams, and ping me and make sure that I understand what the person on the phone is speaking. I did have a cattail phone at my desk, but the the captions are so delayed, and it's hard to keep up, and it's awkward. It's got awkward pauses, and I actually hated my cattail phone, and um, but with conference calls, I definitely had somebody come in and kind of just help me make sure I know what's going on the phone. They would just type, they would ping me, and so that helped. Note takers, if we're in a meeting and have other coworkers in there, ask if somebody can take notes so that I don't have to, so I can pay attention and read everybody's lips. Um, so there's times when we have like a enterprise-wide or corporate-wide event. So for those, I've always asked for a sign language interpreter because usually when an arena or somewhere big stage, to read lips at a distance, even if you're near the front, and they walk around the stage and stuff. So I always request a sign language interpreter for those. Um, and then the other one is in the past, I've had a hard time getting closed captions on videos for work,
Yeah.
and that's always been an issue as long as I can remember for 13, 14 years. So now that I'm on the cultural diversity and inclusion team, I'm trying to make it a best practice so it's not an afterthought. That when you do videos and communication plan, build that into your plan at load so that we have captions for videos. But to overcome the barrier in the past, I would just request the transcript because usually, they're preparing the
Yeah.
speeches for the executives, the leaders that are speaking. So I would ask for the transcript so I could kind of read the transcript and follow along with the video.
So on that front, Eric, I mean, I think that it's amazing, just as you and I were preparing for this interview, typically we use Zoom, but to have the live captioning, we moved over to Microsoft Teams. But I know that we have been very intentional now when we are posting things on Instagram or social media and the videos, we want to make sure that there's captioning. I mean, what is your experience with seeing the lack of captioning or who's doing well with the captioning on social media in particular?
Yeah, well, I do Instagram, I do Facebook, I do have a lot of deaf friends, so majority of the time they're captioned, and they usually use YouTube. YouTube does have automatic captioning, and you can also modify the transcript on the captioning, so that's helpful. But
Yeah.
the times that there's no captions, I do the best to lip read. I miss things. It's my life. I miss things. It happens. It definitely, I think there's a big gap for improvement there. Not only on social media, but if you think about podcasts, I can't listen to podcasts. I've
Yeah.
never seen one with captioned or transcript, to be honest. So I don't even bother even looking at podcasts because I know it's not going to be accessible for me. So
Wow. I mean, that's a whole market that people are missing out on because they're not making it accessible. So if a podcast did make it accessible, or add a transcript or have that, is that something you'd be interested in?
I did reach out to Disability Inn just as of this week, actually. There was a kind of a request that came to our team about possibly adding a CDNI podcast playlist on a cultural diversity and inclusion site for our leader associates. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to hear them. So how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
So I maintain and manage a cultural diversity and inclusion SharePoint site. I built it, we designed it. I'm also in charge of all the BOD sites. So I manage and keep the content fresh on the site. And so I was like, how am I going to do this? So I'll have to, if we choose to use podcasts in the near future, I'll have one of my coworkers listen to them because she's new to our team, actually. And I'll have her listen to them and send them to me, the ones that we want to post. And we also might look into transcribing them for our deaf and hard of hearing associate using it's called rev.com, and they do transcription and captioning. So we might get an account, and that way it'll be accessible. But yeah, podcast is a big one.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'd like to do is get a list of resources from you that we can share with folks regarding making sure that captioning is accessible and attainable for all companies. And that kind of leads me to the final question. I'm a super fan of Janice Little and everything she's done at Lowe's and what your whole team does. And I think there's a lot of best practices that y'all could share. And I know that you're the point person now. So what are some things that you think employers can think about making sure that their workforce is more inclusive of all people?
Yeah, so I think that training is going to be key in unconscious bias. If you think about people have all kinds of experiences and they grow up from different cultures, and so you might not be around people that have disabilities, kind of like me. I did not know anybody that was deaf or hard of hearing growing up, so I didn't have that experience or exposure. So if you've never been exposed to it, how can you know what to ask, or how can, your mind is molded to what you've experienced. So training in unconscious bias would be key to making sure that associates are understanding and just having those training and actually give real life scenarios. But not just that. If let's say you have a person that started your job and they have a disability, just help them make sure that you're understanding that what their abilities and limitations are. So for like me, I can do everything you can do, just I can't hear.
Yeah.
So if you think about it like that, people think that if you have a disability, you can't do something. So that goes back to unconscious bias and just misconceptions and myths, and you just have to tap into those and unpack those and just get to the root cause. But if you treat, my advice would be make sure you treat people as equals, no matter what. And if you're curious and you just don't know about that person's disabilities and they've obviously told you they have a disability, be curious, ask questions. If you're kind and you're asking careful questions, most people are an open book and they want to share. I am now to the point that I've accepted my disability and I want to share with others. One of the reasons why I'm doing this. I'm hoping it's helpful and it inspires others, and that you don't have to be alone. Find support group, find somebody that you can talk to.
No, I love it, Erica, and I think that your vulnerability, your authenticity, I think these are the things that are going to inspire individuals who are ashamed of talking about their disability. I was for many years, so I can totally empathize with you, and I totally agree with you about having those open discussions and dialogue, because that's how we're going to change the way and change those unconscious biases. And so I love it. I love everything you've just kind of shared, those best practices, because that's something that every single company can start to implement themselves. So But Erica, how can people get in touch with you or connect with you?
If people want to get in touch, I'm on LinkedIn, so that might be the best place to start. My name is Erica Crane, for those that need to reach out to me. And then I have email with Liz and a personal email. So if you choose to email me and it's work related or just want some resources, you can reach out to erica.c.crane@lose.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. I really, really appreciate you sharing your story and just being so vulnerable with us. I love it, and I'm so glad to have you as an ally, and I can't wait to see what you do in your, with the cultural and diversity team, and we're gonna go with that. So thanks again. All right.